Say the best years of your life pass by before you even realize you're living them. For me, those years were spent in a modest home with the hum of morning cartoons in the background, mismatched socks in the laundry, and a little girl who thought I was the greatest man alive. Her name is Emma, my daughter, or so I thought. I remember the first time I held her. She was wrapped in a soft pink blanket, impossibly small. Her tiny fingers clung to mine like they'd known me forever. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I cried because I had never felt so much responsibility and yet so much love, all at once. That moment changed me. Becoming a father made me better. It straightened out my selfishness. It grounded me. Before Emma, I had been drifting through life, dead-end jobs, meaningless weekends, no real direction. But the second she came into the world, everything clicked into place. My wife, Lila, smiled at me from the hospital bed, tired but glowing. I thought she looked like a miracle that day. Our miracle. Life after that wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. Diapers, sleepless nights, tantrums at the grocery store, it was all part of the package. I embraced it. I was her dad. I wore that title like a badge of honor. Lila went back to work when Emma turned 3. She was always ambitious, always pushing herself. I supported her, took on more hours at the shop, juggled parenting with house chores. We were a team, or so I believed. As Emma grew older, our bond deepened. She wasn't just my daughter. She was my little shadow, my helper, my audience of one. I taught her to ride a bike, to whistle, to tie her shoelaces. She'd wait by the door when I came home from work, running into my arms as if I'd been gone for years, not hours. And God, I lived for that. People always said Emma looked more like her mother. Same light brown hair, same dimples. I didn't mind. Not everyone gets a carbon copy. What mattered was that she acted like me. She had my laugh, my sense of humor. She mimicked the way I scratched the back of my neck when I was nervous. That had to mean something, right? Still, if I'm honest, I noticed things about Lila. Small things. Over the years, she seemed more distant, less affectionate, more reserved. I chalked it up to stress, motherhood, work. We still shared jokes, still made love, still planned vacations and birthday parties. Nothing felt wrong enough to question. Until the spring of Emma's 15th birthday. It started innocently enough. A school nurse called. Emma had fainted during PE. They ran some basic tests. Nothing alarming. Low iron, maybe a minor deficiency. But the doctor suggested more thorough blood work to rule out anything genetic. Lila brushed it off. She's fine. You know how dramatic schools can be. But something in her tone felt tight. Forced. The hospital asked us to come in together for a routine blood sample, just in case they needed a parental match for additional testing. I didn't hesitate. Why would I? A week later, they asked us to return. The nurse who met us at the hospital was polite, but avoided eye contact. That struck me as odd. Inside the small consultation room, a pediatric hematologist sat across from us with a thick folder in front of him. He had that carefully neutral expression doctors wear when they're about to say something they know you won't like. Mr. and Mrs. Callahan, he began. I want to start by saying Emma is healthy. There's nothing life-threatening. But during routine blood typing, something came up. He paused. I looked at Lila, who stared blankly at the floor. There's no easy way to say this, the doctor continued. But based on the results, Mr. Callahan, you are not a biological match with Emma. My brain went quiet. I heard the words, but they didn't land right away. Sorry, I said slowly. You mean there was a lab mistake? No, he said gently. We double-checked. We even ran additional tests. There's no doubt. Biologically, you are not Emma's father. Silence. I turned to Lila, waiting for her to laugh, to call it ridiculous, to demand a retest or make some kind of scene. But she didn't move. She didn't say a word. She just sat there, eyes glassy, hands folded tightly in her lap. Lila, I said. My voice cracked. Still nothing. That's when my hands started shaking. The ride home was a blur. Lila sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, looking out the window like she was somewhere else. I didn't speak. Couldn't. At home, I paced the living room like a caged animal. She finally broke the silence. It was a mistake. A long time ago. I stopped pacing. Whose mistake, Lila? She didn't answer. I felt heat rise in my chest. Is this some kind of sick joke? Is there something you forgot to tell me for 15 years? She looked at me. Really looked at me. And that's when she said it. It was Ryan. Ryan. My cousin. My goddamn cousin. The memory hit me like a punch to the throat. Ryan had stayed with us briefly during that first year of marriage, when he was down on his luck. Slept on our couch, helped fix up the garage. Always charming, always overstepping, laughing too loudly, brushing past Lila a little too closely. I didn't think much of it then. He was family. Family. The bile rose in my throat. You slept with my cousin, I whispered. Lila opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't let her. No, you cheated on me. With my own blood. And then let me raise his daughter for 15 years like a goddamn idiot. She winced at that, but I didn't care. My vision was already going red. I don't remember the drive to Ryan's house. I don't remember parking. I barely remember getting out of the car. But I remember the look on his face when he opened the door. Surprised. Confused. And then, when I punched him, guilty. My fist connected with his jaw. He stumbled back. I followed him in, knocking over furniture, screaming, punching, grabbing at him until he bled and begged me to stop. You let me raise your kid. I warred. You smug, lying piece of... His nose was broken. Blood covered his face and shirt. The shouting brought neighbors out. Someone called the police, but I was gone before they arrived. I drove back in silence. When I walked into the house, Lila was packing a bag. Emma was upstairs with her headphones on, oblivious. I told her we're staying at my sister's for a few days, Lila said. I didn't answer. I just walked past her and went straight to the bathroom. My knuckles were split. My heart was worse. Within days, word spread. Relatives found out. And once the full truth came out, Lila's affair with Ryan, the lies, the secret, nobody stood by her. Not her parents. Not mine. Not the siblings, the aunts, the cousins. She was done. Branded. Alone. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, all I felt was emptiness. Because upstairs, in her bedroom, sat a 15-year-old girl who had no idea her world was about to shatter. And I still didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the edge of the bed, in the silence of a house that no longer felt like mine, staring at the hallway where Emma's door stood closed. Every few minutes, I heard her laugh faintly, probably watching one of those teen dramas she liked. For a moment, it almost felt normal. But nothing was normal anymore. The girl in that room, the one I taught to ride a bike, who once cried when I went away for a work trip, who still called me Daddy when she was excited, she wasn't mine. At least, not by blood. And yet she was. Wasn't she? I held her hand when she got her vaccines. I sat through every school play, even when she only had one line. I stayed up nights helping her build science fair projects, pretended to know algebra I'd long forgotten, wiped her tears through fevers, heartbreaks, scraped knees. What does biology mean against all that? But then I'd remember Lila's betrayal, the smirking face of Ryan, and something in me would seize up again. Anger, shame, disgust, like I'd been made a fool for over a decade. The next morning, I told Lila to leave the house. Emma stayed with me. She asked why Mom was crying, why she was taking a suitcase, where she was going. I told her only what I could manage. Your mom and I were going through something, but it's not your fault. She frowned. Are you getting divorced? I looked into her eyes, and they looked back at me with trust. Still full of love. Still so unaware. I couldn't lie, but I couldn't tell her either. Maybe. We'll figure it out. She nodded, quiet, then leaned into me and hugged me tight. I love you, Dad. My throat closed up. I didn't respond. I just held her until she let go. Weeks passed. I avoided everyone. I called in sick. I barely ate. My phone buzzed with messages from friends and relatives who had heard whispers of what happened. Some offered sympathy. Some were nosy. I didn't reply to any of them. Lila tried, too. Left voicemails. Sent long, apologetic texts. I never responded. I couldn't. Every word from her felt like salt on an open wound. Emma, though she was still just Emma. She drew me pictures. Made me coffee on weekends. Asked if I'd help her study for midterms. I tried to keep up the act. Tried to smile, to talk, to be there, but something inside me was dying. One night, I came close to leaving. I sat in the living room with my packed duffel bag by the door. I'd written a letter to Emma, one I hoped would soften the blow. I told her it wasn't her fault, that she would always be loved, that I just needed time. But as I stood there with my hand on the doorknob, I heard a noise. It was her. She was singing to herself, off-key and softly, while brushing her teeth upstairs. And something in me broke. I dropped the bag. I crumpled the letter. I sat down on the stairs and cried. Time trudged forward. I functioned, barely. I went to work, cooked dinner, paid bills, took Emma to school, but I was a shadow of myself. The man who once danced in the kitchen with her on Saturday mornings now stared out windows in silence. After 7 months, I let a friend set me up on a date. Her name was Melissa, divorced, kind, funny, patient, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't make eye contact for long. I kept comparing her to Lila, then hating myself for it. Every time she laughed, I felt guilty. Every time she touched my hand, I flinched. I wasn't ready, not even close. I told her the truth by the second date. She was kind about it, said I needed more time, said she hoped I found peace. I didn't call her again. One night, months later, Emma asked me something that caught me off guard. "Why do you always look so sad when you look at me now?" I froze. She didn't look angry or hurt, just curious, like she had been slowly building the courage to ask. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. All I could say was, "It's not you. I promise." But I could tell she didn't believe me. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. If I didn't come to terms with what happened soon, I'd lose her. Not by blood, not through custody or legal battles, but emotionally, spiritually. The connection we had, the one we'd built for 15 years, was already starting to unravel, and it would be my fault. I didn't know how to fix what was breaking between Emma and me. I didn't know how to look at her the same way, even though I desperately wanted to. The love was still there. It had never left, but it had been buried beneath something bitter and hard. Every time she smiled, I saw the lie behind it. Every time she laughed, I remembered how none of it was real. Or so I told myself. But that wasn't the truth. Not really. Because the way she looked at me hadn't changed. Not once. The damage wasn't hers to fix. It was mine. I met her in the most unexpected way. At a grief group, of all places. Not for death. For betrayal. For trust lost. Her name was Maya. She sat across from me one night in a folding chair, arms crossed, eyes calm but sharp. She was there because her fiancé had cheated on her with her best friend. 2 years engaged, 6 years together, and just like that, gone. But she wasn't bitter. She spoke slowly, deliberately, not like someone trying to perform her pain for others, but like someone who had learned to carry it properly. We spoke after the session, then again the next week. And then we started walking together after the meetings, just to get fresh air. She never pried, never asked too many questions. But when I finally did open up, when I told her everything, raw and unfiltered, she didn't flinch. She listened, really listened. And then she said something that cracked the stone inside my chest. "You didn't fail her, you know. You showed up. Every day. That's what makes you her father. Not blood. Love." I don't know why those words hit me the way they did. Maybe because they were so simple. Maybe because they were true. Maybe because no one had said them before. Over the next few months, Maya and I grew closer. Not in a romantic way, at first. Just emotionally. Honestly, she'd check in. She'd send me articles, podcasts, gentle advice. She never pushed. And slowly, her voice replaced the one in my head. The angry one. The broken one. She became my mirror, showing me the version of myself I'd forgotten. One night, after a long walk, she said, "You keep trying to go back to who you were before all this. But that guy's gone. And that's okay. What matters is who you're becoming now." I didn't say anything. I just hugged her. And she held me like I wasn't broken. Emma and I talked the next morning. Really talked. I sat her down at the kitchen table, hands trembling. "I have to tell you something," I said. "Something I should have told you months ago." She looked worried, but nodded. And then, I told her the truth. Not in a cruel way. Not in a rage. Just honestly, as gently as I could. I told her I wasn't her biological father. She didn't say anything for a long time. Her lips trembled. She looked down at her hands. "But, you're still my dad," she said, like she was asking, not stating. I felt something wet roll down my cheek. "Always," I said. "Always." She burst into tears. And I held her like I had when she was small, like I was the only wall between her and the world. Lila never came back into our lives. She tried, wrote letters, apologized, but I never responded. And Emma never asked about her again. Ryan? I never saw him again either. I heard he moved. Good riddance. Maya and we did fall in love. Eventually. But not because she saved me. She didn't fix me. She gave me space and strength to fix myself. She helped me rebuild the bridge between me and Emma. Helped me laugh again, trust again, live again. And one day, A few years later, as we watched Emma cross the stage at graduation, Maya leaned over and whispered, "She's lucky, you know." I smiled. "No," I said. "I am." Years have passed since that day in the hospital. Emma's in college now, studying psychology, wants to help kids like herself, those caught in the fallout of other people's choices. She still calls me dad. She still hugs me before every trip back to school, still texts me when she's stressed, still calls me when something goes right or wrong. Sometimes I think back to the rage, the betrayal, the heartbreak, but they're no longer the defining parts of my story, because I chose to stay, and she chose to love me anyway. And in the end, that's all that matters.